Fight.
And that's the bottom line.
And his kick is good.
I need a weapon.
You cannot escape.
We forget 1,000 things every day. How about you make sure this is one of them?
Here we go.
It's time for the main event.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Single Player Experience Podcast, the best podcast on planet Earth that is for single-player gamers. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian Malden, and joining me today is a juggernaut in games, especially retro games. I am delighted to have this man on. I cannot tell y'all this enough because ever since I met this guy, I've been dying to have him on the show. But anyways, my guest today, you may know him as the wonderful co-host of the Unofficial Controller podcast, aka the UCP podcast. But for those that do not know him, let me introduce you to this man. This man has taken Hyrule by storm. This man is also responsible for destroying the Covenant in Halo. This man is also responsible for owning every single Wii game in existence that matters. Of course, the collection is not complete, but everyone that matters, he's got it. This man has pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, every single console now in existence, like retro console at least.
Very close. Well, no, I say very close. I mean, there's a lot of obscure stuff, but I suppose I've got about 35 set up playable to play. Yeah. So.
Okay. So every major console that's been ever released, we'll just go like that. This man, this man, he is the lovable gamer himself. He is the retro gamer himself. I know him as RGT. You're about to know him as Retro Gamer Thomas. Everyone, welcome him to the show. RGT, how you doing today?
Fantastic. I'm a bit taken aback by that introduction. Wow, what a fantastic introduction. But no, thank you for having me. Yes, pleasure to be here, Seb. Pleasure to be here.
Man, thank you so much for taking the time. But for those people who do not know you, who haven't heard the wonderful podcast known as the UCP, can you introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what is your video game origin story?
Right. Well, as you said, I'm Retro Gamer Thomas, or shortened to RGT, as people know me. Co-host of the Unofficial Controller podcast, which is, as you know, you're on there regularly with us as well, Seb. But we also have Bobby, who's a New York resident. We have me, I'm from east of England, and we have George, who's the lead and the head and the brains behind the whole network of the UCP, and he's from sort of northern England. We also now have a new guy coming on who's a YouTuber called Marathon Gaming, Scott. And the show's been coming up for 5 years now, over 230 episodes, weekly gaming podcast, mostly covering that week's news, that week's new releases. I chuck a bit of the retro in, so I keep everyone's feet on the ground with a bit of the old school, how it should be. Me personally, been a gamer since whenever I could hold a control pad or a joystick. That's showing my age, a joystick. Started on 8-bit micros and have just followed the generations through right up to the current gen. But I play anything from Commodore 64s, ZX Spectrums, arcade, right up to PS5s, Xbox Series X's, and Nintendo Switches, which I know is your favourite console of all time. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about me anyway.
So RGT, is there a game that got you into gaming though? Is there one in particular moment in time where you can be like, oh, that game probably was the one that birthed my love for this medium?
Yeah, and I can still. This is strange as well because I can remember this as clear as day. And I was 6 years old at the time, and I still remember this. And we'd gone on holiday. I'll keep it brief so I don't bore you. But we'd gone on holiday to Spain with my family. And the hotel we were staying in, I mean, I am sure my age is in the 80s, but they had a tabletop arcade machine playing Space Invaders. And I was just using my holiday money playing that. I'd never seen anything like it. I didn't know you could play games like this. I didn't know you could even have a tabletop screen, so you were leaning over it. And I just spent, and because of that, on my holiday, I bought a Game & Watch, Mario Game & Watch in a local shop. Was playing that, and when I got back, I just praised my parents when I got back, and they actually bought me a micro computer over here, which is big in the UK, Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Obviously not on the same power as the arcade, but it was giving me that gaming experience at home, and that is where my love for games has came from, and it's been an addiction of mine ever since.
So, have you still like picked up the joystick on the arcade cabinets, or you more lean towards, console gaming at the house more so nowadays?
Um, yeah, pretty much console gamer mostly. I do have a bar top arcade, which is it's one that my wife had custom built for me, but 1,300 games on. So if there's anything you want to play from Gallagher through to Space Invaders right through to Metal Slug, they're all on there. So I do still play on arcade, but predominantly it's the retro consoles. I still play on the 8-bit micros, not as much as I should really, but it's consoles, like I say, right from Master Systems right all the way up to your current gen. Really, if there's a game worth playing or it's a new game, then regardless of age or generation, I'll be playing it.
So I gotta ask you, like you have a extensive collection. If anyone's watching the video, he has a gaming shed, and in this
Mm.
gaming shed, there's like hundreds of video games. There's video game consoles. There's
Yeah.
shelves that are. I believe you have it in order of like the actual like game console, right? Each shelf is a different game console.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, you can see a bit behind me over there, which
Mhm.
is sort of mostly them shelves are PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4, PS5, and then there's Wii on there, Xbox, original Xbox, and I go through stages of what I collect for. I mean, the last couple of years, I've been big into the original Xbox, Wii as well. Really been discovering a lot of Wii games. Dismissed it a lot for a lot of years because of the shovelware.
There was a lot of
But when you
shovelware.
a lot of shovelware, but then when you dig under the surface a bit, you start finding some good games on that system. We use another one,
Mhm.
been collecting for, but yeah. So I go through stages of building a collection. Predominantly, I'd say half my collection is PlayStation.
Oh wow.
Probably biggest part of my collection of any console is probably PlayStation 2.
Oh, one
Um,
of the best consoles ever made, man.
yeah, definitely. I mean, Mega Drive, or as you would call it, Genesis in the
Hmm.
States, is Mega Drive, Genesis, and PS2 are my favorite two consoles of all time. So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I
As
gotta
we know nowadays, it's getting expensive for some of these games. So I try and collect what's not popular at the time. So, yeah.
I do want to follow up on that. Do you feel like it has been easier on the wallet book and as like a hobbyist, like earlier trying to collect video games than it is now? Or do you feel like now with like the wave of e-commerce and everything being able to be shipped to your house, do you feel like it's easier now? It feels like you maybe like delivery is easier, but it's more expensive. How does that work?
Mm. No, that's a very good point, actually, Seb. I think your modern game, and I know people say, oh, $70 for a game is a lot of money nowadays. I
Hmm.
mean, I've still got box SNES games behind me with 64.99 on. So we haven't changed that much. They're still quite affordable considering what games were.
Hmm.
But you are correct. I think with modern games, you can go on Amazon, you can go on what would you have in the States,
Yeah, GameStop,
GameStop, sorry. Yeah. We've got
Amazon,
yeah,
Chegg is another one I think we use here in the States.
you can click your game, you get it delivered
Yeah.
to your door. I think for retro, when a lot of the stuff I collected a lot of years ago. I've been collecting a lot of years, 20
Hmm.
years plus. So I was buying box Super Nintendo games for $5 a piece, and I don't buy for monetary value, but there's certain things I was looking at. I sometimes watch YouTubers like Pixel Game Squad and people like that, and they're picking these games up, and then they'll bring the price up in the bottom corner, and I'm like, what? I mean, I
You got some
paid
money
no,
on your hands.
and then I start checking bits that I've paid literally nothing for, and they're now going into the hundreds, and a couple of my games are into the thousands, and you're like, where's this come from? Because I don't check prices. That's not what I'm about. But I think nowadays, through you know, we had the bad time a few years ago around the world. Everything spiked when that kicked in. Everything spiked because everyone was at home. Everyone started buying retro, and it got real expensive. And it has come down, but it's plateaued a bit. So certain systems and certain games are expensive now. And then you have to consider as well, you know, there is the risk if you're buying a lot of disc games of disc rot. A lot of people say about disc rot. Well,
Oh yeah, that's rough.
if for instance you want to buy, especially in the UK, if you want to buy Deep Fear, which is the last Saturn game made for the Saturn in the PAL regions, which is now going 5, 6, 7, probably even £800 over here at the moment.
Wow.
Would you want to pay that for a game that may not work in 10 years' time? So there's things like that you have to consider. But yeah, I think at the moment, especially my cartridge side is quite slow when I improve my cartridge collection because, yeah, prices are expensive. So like I say, I always try and buy what's not popular at the time because later on down the line it's going to cost you 5 times the amount.
So I know the answer because I know you through our other show we like to record on. But like, for the people who don't know you, like, what do you modernly game on now? Like, what's your most commonly used systems?
PS5.
Mhm.
I mostly use. I have a Series X, which I probably don't use enough of, to be fair. I mean, out of the big three, it probably goes PS5, Switch, and then the Xbox. PS5 because I've been in their ecosystem since PS3, and once you're locked in, it's the same with having an Apple product or a Samsung. Once you're locked in, you carry on, and with trophy systems, and that's a clever way of keeping you in that ecosystem. But yeah, predominantly PS5, Xbox Series X mostly used for their exclusives when they come out. But,
The occasional.
the occasional one. But yeah, your Forzas, bits and pieces, love all those, so I play those. And Switch is, I don't know what it is. I was probably a bit late to the Switch. Started off with Switch Lite, and then my lovely wife sort of took over the Switch Lite, so I got myself an OLED, and just I watch a few Switch YouTubes, pick up these games that no one's heard of and play, and yeah, just really been enjoying the system. But they're the modern ones. Of the retro side, it can be anything really. The shed is mostly used for friends, family. We have get-togethers, we play old games, and we just see what everyone wants to play. Whether we're chucking Halo on the original Xbox, or we're playing Wolfchild on the Mega Drive, or we're playing Sonic CD or anything, we just chuck it on and all play together. So the retro is just whatever takes our fancy at the time. But yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing. I want to ask you, like in my best UCP George voice, impression, what have you been playing?
That's not bad. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
A little bit of work, but no,
Yeah.
that's okay. That's
Yeah.
getting there.
Voice broke a little bit, so
Yeah. It's even better. I have been playing Trials of Mana
Okay.
at the moment on the PS5, although I had a bit of disappointment with Trials of Mana.
Oh no, what happened?
Well, as you know me well,
Mhm.
JRPGs were never my thing, and I'm trying to get into them now, and really started enjoying a few of them now. I prefer more action combat than turn-based, but anyway, so my brother-in-law's a big JRPG fan. He said, "Oh, well, if you want a good entry into JRPGs, try Trials of Mana. Action combat, it's pretty simple. Your upgrade systems and your skill trees are quite easy to do. Give it a go." Started playing it, really enjoying it. Downloaded it off PlayStation Premium. Got about 8 hours in and thought, do you know what? I'm really enjoying this game. It's got that retro feel. That's the remake. It's the one we didn't get over here. I had all that. I'm really enjoying it. Went to load it up the next time I played it. You need to purchase this game if you want to buy it.
No.
Which is now the problem of digital online subscription services because it's been taken off
It's no longer on the
PlayStation
service.
Premium, which is
Yeah.
a £45 game over here to download. Luckily
That's
enough,
rough.
my brother-in-law's got the disc, the physical copy, so I've got that to play. So Trials of Mana I've been playing.
What do you like about the
Yeah,
game?
I think, like I say, wouldn't never have been anything I would have played before, but
Mhm.
I like the story, and it's not too overly complicated. The combat's really good because obviously they've turned this from a 2D sort of top-down RPG into an action RPG 3D.
Mhm.
But yeah, the combat's really good. It's easy to get you into. Like I say, the skill tree is easy to learn for what you add. It's very it's late. It's almost like an RPG starter kit, and I like that. And I'm really enjoying it. And it's just easy to pick up and play. And it really makes me want to play more of the Mana series. I'm really interested in the Visions of Mana coming out because of this game.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
It came out earlier this week as of this recording.
oh, did it really?
Yeah, I
Oh,
believe so.
I better get that ordered then. But yeah, so yeah, I think it's just that really. I think it's that easy introduction because sometimes you can play some of the older Final Fantasies or Personas bits and pieces, and there's a lot to learn if you're not into those style of games. But whereas this one is a bit more handhold and it's a bit more stripped back, and it's just sort of easing me in gently, really, and I'm just enjoying it. Just there's a little bit of grinding to it, but nothing too bad. It's enjoyable. Yeah, and it's good, and I don't think it overstays its welcome. I think it's only a 20-25 hour game, so
Is it real time combat or is it turn based?
no real time combat.
Real time, okay.
Yeah, yeah, and it's almost like they've literally taken the 2D game and turned it into a 3D game. So the combat is quite easy. It's there's only a couple of buttons. It's good camera controls. It's good, and it's good combat. I think I really enjoy it, and it's a story and side quests that you can just go along with. That it's nothing too heavy. You haven't got to put 100 hours in just to see the end. It's like I say before, almost like a beginner's RPG, and yeah, really enjoying it.
Okay. What else you been playing?
Oh, Vampire Survivors.
Woo! I love it.
Vampire Survivors. I was late to this. I played a few other roguelites, so I was a bit late to this. And then just one day it came up an offer on the Switch. I know you'd already said to me, play Vampire Survivors. And then Scott from Marathon Gaming had been playing it. I thought, do you know what? I'm going to give this a go. I had a few hours, and wow, then hours went quick because that game is addictive.
It's so fun, isn't it?
Oh, it is amazing. It's
simplicity though. It's like it's simple.
Exactly.
It's simple, but yet it's like it has some complex mechanics and natures enough to where it keeps you wanting to play more of it. Oh, it's so good.
It's got that just one more go feel, but it's also got that if I'd have just done this, I could have seen that run out. If I'd have just done this, or if I'd have just up leveled up that weapon, I would have got to the and it's just kept going, and I think I've seen all the levels through on times, got the relics on most of them. I think I've got 2 levels left, and I'm about. I haven't done any of the DLC yet, but yeah, really addictive. Great game. And sometimes when you have busy lives, we all have busy lives. Sometimes it is nice just to pick your Switch up or your whatever console you got it on, and just put half an hour in, and you can get a couple of runs done in that time, and just have a bit of gaming. Where if you're playing these big open world RPGs, you normally need a good hour or a couple of hours to actually get any benefit out of it. So just have these quick pick up and play games that are so addictive is it's a nice little palate cleanser, and yeah, really enjoying Vampire Survivors.
What Vampire Survivors is one of my favorite games. I think it was 2020 or 2021, but like one of my favorite games that year, and it was one of those that I didn't expect to love as much as I ended up loving that game. It was like I heard a lot of good things about it, but then I thought to myself, I'm like, there's no way it could live up to what everyone is saying about it. Like universally, I didn't hear a bad thing about Vampire Survivors, and I played the first round, and like you start off very small, and I think you start off with that little slash to the side little slot thing, and it wasn't clicking at first. And then I started to accumulate some more of the power-ups, and I'm like, oh, I'm a god amongst these little creatures. Like I'm crushing everything.
It makes you feel that.
It does.
It really. I mean, when you start, if you have sort of 2 or 3 that you. I used to like the garlic where you'd get that just kill the enemies, automatically range it. And once you start powering all them up to their like level 7 and 8, and you're just wiping out big scores of these, thousands, and it's just you feel like, yes, I've got this. It's got that real get good factor to it. And then you do that and think, right, I want to do the next level. I could do the next level. You start learning which power-ups you like, and which ones you can power up more. And yeah, really, really good, solid game. And I love the aesthetic of it. I mean, it's almost like an MS-DOS game, It
That's what I was going to say too.
Yeah, it's got that fantastic aesthetic to it. And I don't think when you see trailers of it, does it justice, because when you actually play it, it actually plays really well. You know, you
So
think that
smooth.
many enemies on screen, you think, oh, especially on my Switch, this could strike. No, but I never had any slowdown, anything. It was brilliant. You know, really, really good game. And it's always nice just to have it. How small that file size
Mhm.
is. If you've got a Switch, just have that just saved on there. You know,
Live
if
on
you're
that thing,
away and you
yeah.
travel, yeah, you can just quickly just flick that on, have a few more goes, and then away you go again. Yeah, really good, solid, absolutely solid game.
Yeah,
Quite just yeah.
and I was gonna say, and I love it too, because like you were saying, it's a good travel game. Like the Steam Deck, on the high end games, it'll kill that battery so quickly. Absolutely murder
Mm,
that battery. Like
yes.
so for instance, like Star Wars Outlaws, which recently released as of this episode, like it's not. I wouldn't say it's the stupidly. It's like not the most insanely heavy game, but it is. It will drain that battery quicker than Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors, you
Mm,
can probably get 8 hours of gameplay. Like I can do an international
yeah.
flight just playing Vampire Survivors. I could not do that with like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, Ratchet and Clank. Like to give some examples of like graphically intensive games. I
Yeah.
couldn't do that with those.
I think the last time I played, I think I put about 2.5, 3 hours in, and my Switch was still on 65% battery
Just
power.
powering,
So
yeah.
yeah, because it's just it's not a lot to run it. It's
Mm-mm.
just it's the ingenious of that game, really. But yeah, really good. Um,
And what else you been playing?
I've also been playing Bioshock Infinite on the PlayStation 3. People who listen to the UCP
Mhm.
know that I've been sort of going back through my collection and playing games that I missed, or um, big sort of games that I've done Halo's, not Halo 4, Bioshock. I've done 1 and 2, and I'm now up to Infinite. But I'm still stuck on the final level of Infinite. It is kicking me down.
No.
It is brutal. So yeah, I've been finding that tough, but I just need to get that final mission done, and then Infinite is done, and then the 3 Bioshocks have done. But yeah,
So what made you
I've
want to try out the BioShock games, if you don't mind me asking? Because like I want you to pitch this to me, because I've never played BioShock like 1, 2, or 3 to completion.
mm,
I played BioShock the first 2 or 3 hours of BioShock, but I was over someone's house and they were, like around that time it was like the early days of I'm 33 now, and BioShock 1 was what, like 2006, 2007, I believe. And
mhm.
I remember staying over a friend's house. We were doing a gaming session, and he fell asleep, and I was like, I'll just pop this in since I'm not even remotely tired. And I played like a couple hours of it, but as I didn't own it, I didn't get to complete it. So like, can you pitch this to me as like, is this a good single player experience today in 2023, the BioShock, or 2024, I should say.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, especially as you can get. I think they remastered them on PS4.
Hmm.
I think there's even a. I think you can get it on Switch as well. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you can get the collection on Switch. Um, I wanted to play this because, like I said, I was going from a collection, and there was a lot of big heavy hitters in there, or series that I hadn't touched. Reason I hadn't touched a lot of the first person games is because I used to get motion sickness from first person games. But I always purchased them because I thought one day, hopefully I'll be all right. But I started with older first person games. I've worked my way up, and at the moment I'm okay. But I've done the Halos, and then I thought, do you know what? I've always wanted to give Bioshock a go because of the unique story, because of
Hmm.
the unique setting, because of how well it was rated. So I thought I roughly knew what it was about, not a lot, and I thought, right, I'm going to jump in. Um, Especially 1 and 2, absolutely fantastic games, very unique setting. In case you hadn't played it, it's a city under the sea called Rapture, um, and they use these plasmids that they, improve their human life. It's more for like the rich and famous who live down there and out of the way of society. But obviously, with using these enhancements, that all goes a bit awry, and when you get there, you have to go down, and everything's gone almost like an apocalypse down there.
Hmm.
And and then the story leads on from 1, and then you're a different character in 2. But they've done this great thing of making this very unique setting, but getting this almost like an alternate 1930s, 40s, I think, a setting, but getting that feeling of their 1930s, 1940s, the dress and the music, and it just absorbed me. And the same again, it doesn't overstay its welcome. You can complete this game in 15, 20 hours,
Oh, it's not bad.
And I took my time with it. And as soon as I finished one, I was like, I need to play two because this has got its claws in me. Played two. Um, very good again, still in
Hmm.
rapture. I wouldn't, I'd probably push a good 8.5 out of 10 for Bioshock 1. Good 8.5 out of 10. A
That's a
good
good
8
score.
for number two.
Hmm.
I didn't enjoy three so much. It's a completely different setting in three. I still had that Bioshock feel to it, but it was taken to a different place. I won't say too much. Taken to a different place.
Hmm.
Um, still enjoying it. Still nearly completed it. Still enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as one and two. But it's definitely worth playing the three because for how cheap they are, them games have so much depth to them, and it's just nice to see a completely different storyline and a different setting.
There's some about the threes that's hard to pull off, the end of the trilogy, so to speak. Because like if you I'm thinking of examples like, like Arkham Knight, for example. Like first two well renowned, Arkham Knight was a controversial child. Halo 3, even though people still love well, Halo 3, it's just like compared to one and two, I feel like it's kind of the odd man out, like
Mm.
one was this thing that revolutionized the series. Two was like the world phenomenon. And I feel like three, while I think it was still pretty good, it was, like I think it was kind of a bit in the shadows of one and two there, like historically speaking.
Mm.
And then you have some other examples of like that third game that didn't quite stick that landing there, like
Yeah,
it's always
it's a
rare,
tricky
isn't it?
one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think you have to.
Fable
You
3
have
was what I was thinking of.
Yes, yeah, you have to tread that tightrope between you're going to get fans who want more of the same, but you're going to get fans who'll get bored with that and they want it bigger and better, and you have to try and keep that stay on that tightrope and just think, well, we need a bit of the same, but we need it bigger and better, but we don't want to lose the story, and that's always
Hmm.
hard to to follow up with those. And I think same with Bioshock. I think they saw right, we need a different setting for this, somewhere different, but we want to keep it Bioshock, which they have done. That's still a really good game,
Oh, Mass
but
Effect 3 is another one
oh
that,
yes, Mass Effect
yeah,
3, that's
didn't
another
quite
one.
stick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's sort
stick
of
that
that
landing there.
difficult third album, isn't it?
Yeah, it
But
is.
but yeah, it's still a game worth playing. But like you say,
Mhm.
it's tricky because you think, will people want to be in Rapture again on a third game, or will they be bored, or do we take it somewhere different, or do we, it's quite tricky to change that setting but keep the feel of Bioshock. They done to a certain extent, but it's definitely one and two were the two for me. Where I just thought, yeah, I can see why these were quite critically acclaimed games because
Mhm.
they're very good, very good.
You know, so we talked a little bit about what you've been playing. I want to just
Mm.
gently brush on what I've been playing. One of them is like Tales of Kanzara. It is a Metroidvania. It is a EA Play original game. I don't think it wasn't necessarily made by EA. It was kind of like slightly like EA kind of put their,
Sort of
hey,
published it, did they? Or
yeah, they published it, but not
yeah.
necessarily like I don't think they had anything to do super with the actual like development of that game.
Hmm.
I think it's a solid game. I like the art style a lot. I like the gameplay. If you're watching on video, you can probably see a little bit of the gameplay video as we're talking here. It's zippy, but yet it has this unique charm to it. It almost has like a African Black Panther meets Lion King
Mm.
like story as well as vibe. Imagine Black Panther's like slick style and movement in a Metroidvania, but mixed in more so with a Lion King like story. It's a coming to age story about a kid who just lost his father and is trying to he makes this deal with the god of death to try to for the god of death in this culture in this mythology to try to help him to get his father back from the land beyond.
It
And
looks really interesting. Reminds me a bit of that new Prince of Persia they done.
And I think it's fascinating because
Mm.
in 2024 Prince of Persia came out earlier this year. I think this game was lightly compared to Prince of Persia and came up lacking for a lot of people, and this is why it kind of got blown over a little bit but
Mm.
I think like so as a person who played both Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown and Tales of Gonzaria, I think like Prince of Persia is the better gameplay mechanics and as far as like the better quality of life for a Metrovania game, but I feel like
Mm.
this has a better, more memorable story of
Okay.
like
Oh, that's interesting.
this has like Prince of Persia made by Ubisoft. It is slick, it's stylish. It has some of the Ubisoft mechanics, but more of a toned down 2D Metrovania game. I think like this is probably Ubisoft's best game, and I would almost argue in 5 to 10 years at this point.
Hmm.
And I think Prince of Persia is very good, and I think it's a good single player experience. But Tales of Kanaria, I would argue, is like a game for people who want to play Metrovania games that actually want to be like enraptured by a story. Like
Mm.
this was made by the head gameplay developer also like had done movies previous to this, and this, and it shows that this game is like cinematic and in the way that it tells the story and the way that it like has its story beats that mesh well with the gameplay mechanics, and like the narrations and the tones of this game feel very cinematic, like very
Mm.
much more like a movie quality there. And I love that about this game. So I think it's like a tale of two different style of Metrovania games, but Tales of Kanaria kind of got put in the shadow of Prince of Persia. And I can't say it's completely unfair because Prince of Persia is a better video game when it comes to video game mechanics, but I think this one's a better story. So if you want to play something on this one's on Switch, this one's on Switch, it's on PC. I think it's on everything now. So I'm
Mm.
like I think this is a good recommendation for people who are into Metrovania games, who like 2D Metrovania games that kind of play like Super Smash Brothers meets Prince of Persia.
Mm. Yeah, I like the look of this. Looks really good. Very artistic, the graphics.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. What were you going to
so
say?
I was just going to say, with like the almost like the mist they've got over, and then the
Hmm.
parallax scrolling in the background looks really good. I like that. Like you said, I can see why it's almost got that animation sort of film
Hmm.
style to it as well. Yeah, really,
Yeah.
really good. Yeah, I'm very interested in this.
Yeah, so I mean, and the cool thing about this one is if you are interested in purchasing Tales of Kanaria, like it's cheap. I think it's less than $30 MSRP on Switch, and I know you can get it for like under 15 on PC because you can get everything for dirt cheap on PC. So
Mm.
definitely check that one out if you're interested in a Metrovania game. The other one I really want to talk about though, and you and I will talk a bit about this on the other show, the UCP, is I'm not going to spoil anything super heavy for anyone who hasn't already played this game, by the way. It's Star Wars Outlaws by Ubisoft.
Mm.
And
I've seen a lot
so
of reviews on this. I've been watching a lot of reviews.
so what the review impressions like, what did they give you? Like what kind of vibe did they give you for this game? Because I'm curious.
I would say most of them are a good standard Ubisoft
Hmm.
7 out of 10. Yeah, that I think most of them are saying it's an okay, it's pretty good. They're all round that sort of all right game.
Hmm.
I said there's a lot of emphasis on stealth. A lot of people said they're a bit disappointed with weapon wise what you can do weapons, and
Yeah.
I don't. Am I right in thinking there isn't a skill tree or anything to upgrade, or
It's a light one.
very light?
Like
Yeah,
I wouldn't actually consider it like a heavy RPG.
yeah. They said this, quite a pretty game.
Hmm.
But it's okay, is what I've heard. But I'll be interested to see what you think, Seb.
I think the okay moniker is, like I really hate to sound like I'm pounding on Ubisoft, but I think this is like it's another indicator that Ubisoft as a studio is the first of all, I always say the saying Ubisoft swims in sevens, like they're middle of the
Yeah.
road, they're always good games, not necessarily like the worst games in the world. They're pop, but it's like Ubisoft games feel like popcorn flicks, movies, like movies like not Jaws. What was the one recently with the Meg, then the Meg
Oh,
2,
the Meg. Yeah.
Godzilla versus King Kong, like those type of movies to where like you're not expecting high quality cinema there. You're
Mm,
expecting to go into that movie watching a just a movie that you're gonna have a good time with, and you're just gonna eat popcorn with, and ignore the many flaws that it actually has, and just get yourself taken away by the story that's being told or the gameplay that's being
mm,
portrayed in the Ubisoft game. I that's to me what Ubisoft is. It's like I I hardly expect them to put Game of the Year contenders out there because like it doesn't feel like they want to be a Game of the Year contender. It feels like they found their niche in the and hey, we'll crank out a game every year, but it'll be a rotating like 2 years or 3 year development cycle between all our major franchises.
Mm.
So as a result, it almost feels like just kind of like similar to the annual sports games to where like there's not a whole lot of innovation or like it's not a whole lot of I would say higher thinking when it comes to like how can we elevate this to the next level. It always feels like how can we push this game out and make sure our shareholders are happy. That's the kind of feeling I get with Ubisoft games, you
Mm.
know. And Star
Yeah, I think you're right there. Yeah, definitely.
and Star Wars Outlaws is I think it is a tale of two sides here. Like, just I know I've been talking long-winded here. It's like Star Wars Outlaws feels like a game that was caught in between two different sides of the fence. Like on one hand, I think like the cutscenes are pretty. I think that is really cool to look at. It has some gritty gorgeousness to it that like in a Star Wars setting looks like it looks good. But then like on the other side of the fence, there's parts of this game to where I'm like, oof, if you would have told me this was a last gen game, I'd believe you. You know, like I would have believed
Really.
you. Yeah, I think on a true I'm comparing this to AAA games. I'm not going to compare this to any indies. But on a
Mm.
AAA side of the fence, I could put Star Wars Outlaws side by side with Ghost of Tsushima, with a even Uncharted. You know, I would probably put Uncharted 4, and I can take that to a person who hasn't played a video game in a very long time or doesn't play a video game in a long time. And I'd be curious to see which one they think looks better because I would probably put money on it right now that they would probably go like, oh, the cutscenes in Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima look immensely better than Star Wars, even though Star Wars
Mm.
came out like almost what, like 6 years after they did at this point,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I've noticed that of a few. I mean, I tried recently. I tried the Avatar game, and I found it very sort of underwhelming. Really, that they never seem to have that depth or that polish or that to grab you in, you know. And I'd
Mhm.
gone from Forbidden West to
Oh, that's a
Avatar.
hard going. That's a hard little like tug and pull there,
Yeah,
isn't it?
because you know how you get, the Horizon games, how you get set up at the start of those for the story and adventure you're about to have is second to none. And then you sort of get Avatar, and I sort of, well, you get a bit of this and a bit of that, and now just escape here, then go there and do this. And I played about 10 hours of it and just thought, "No, I'm done with this," you know. And I just sometimes find that, like you say, they're the solid sevens, aren't they? They're almost a casual gamer's game, if you know what I mean. Someone
Hmm.
who likes to just pick up a game, get in an open world, and play. And but you know, when you want a bit more and a bit more combat or a bit more story, they don't seem to deliver. Now, I can't speak for Outlaws. I haven't played it, but I I did have a pre-order which I cancelled because I just weren't quite sure. I was going to wait for reviews, wait for likes of you and George to play, and just see what you think and whether that's.
Can I sell you on I'm gonna play a game here. I'm gonna try to sell you based on the footage that's playing right now. This is my gameplay footage of Outlaws and based on just my impressions of it and what I think like what I think of you as a gamer is like what type of gamer you are. I'm gonna try to
Hmm,
sell you on this game and see if it succeeds here. Like see
okay.
if I can succeed. So Star Wars Outlaws to sell you on it, it is, I would probably say Ubisoft meets Uncharted. And I know you're a big Uncharted fan. And so
I'm looking at his footage and thinking, that looks that sort of Tomb Raiderish Uncharted
Tomb
style of.
Raider, Uncharted, yeah. So here's the thing, though. A lot of the climbing reminds me a little bit of Uncharted. Like a
Mm,
little bit of Tomb Raider. Like it feels like you are going on a roguish adventure to where, like, very similar to Nathan Drake. You are trying to kind of like get one over on a different person or like succeed on a heist or find treasure in a lot of ways. And some of this game is actually really beautiful. It looks good. Like
mm,
some of it looks a little video gamey and a little gritty and a little bit like this was a little undercooked animation wise, but like I think like gameplay wise, even like the like an enemy's coming right at me. I have my blaster, but he's coming at me a little too close. Just like Nathan Drake, you can also like box with him and like fight
Mm,
with him up close. And I like that punchiness of like
mm,
it does feel like they're trying to be somewhat Uncharted like in the
mm.
way like you can go in guns blazing or you can like take someone out with close quarters combat. You can also sneak behind them and do Nathan Drake style of like like choking them out or like like taking them out stealth wise.
Mm.
There's tall grass that you can hide behind and hide underneath just like Uncharted 4. And when you get to like a certain amount of time in this, you do have like an open area very similar to the Jeep area in an Uncharted 4 where you kind of got to explore the
Okay.
savannah a little bit. Or no, it
Yeah.
wasn't savannah, was it? It was like Madagascar.
Yes. Yeah. Somewhere around there. Yeah, with your
Yeah,
Jeep and get your Jeep stuck and yeah, bits and pieces.
and it became like a quasi open world. You
Mm.
know what I'm talking about? It's like
Hmm.
there are, you do get to explore other planets in here. Some some you don't know. I'm not gonna spoil that for you, but like, and you have a little speeder that's the same as your Jeep from Uncharted,
Mm.
and you do get to
Okay.
go around those areas. Now, is it like is the world as big as like Starfield's world or No Man's Sky's world? No, it's very curated, and some of the world is empty. But like, I think for those high points, if you want a small, I would call this like a we have Uncharted at home sort of vibe to where like you haven't played Uncharted in a long time, but I still want to play that type of game. Star
Mm.
Wars Outlaws kind of scratches that itch in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Now, I still think Uncharted 4, hell, I would probably say Uncharted Lost Legacy is a better game from top to bottom, is better than this game.
Yeah.
But I think like what I would tell people is do not pay the full price for this. It's like if
Yeah.
I so there's this thing going around. You have an Xbox Series X.
Hmm.
Um, there's a subscription called Ubisoft Plus.
Yep.
Go on Ubisoft Plus. You can get the premium edition of this game for 17.99 right now.
Mm.
And at
That's a good idea.
17.99, not a bad buy.
No, not
Not
at
a
all.
bad game experience. So, and you can cancel it anytime. It's a month to month plan. So buy the 17.99 plan from Ubisoft Plus. Play the hell out of this game. And then after you beat it in like less than a month, I would hope it would be less than a month for you. Cancel that plan and then go about your business. You can say you experienced that. You kind of got that Uncharted itch out of the way. You do like Star Wars a lot.
Hmm.
I like Star Wars a lot as well. So I'm like, it kind of scratches that itch there, but just know there's a lot of gameplay mechanics that are underbaked. I don't like the stealth in this game so far from what I played, and I've played about 8 hours of this game. I think like this stealth feels like the stealth. I often have to remind myself that this was like Ubisoft once upon a time being Splinter Cell, and they do the Assassin's Creed games because I could not tell you like based on the gameplay of this game, I would be shocked. I'm shocked if the same people did this because the stealth in here feels way worse than Assassin's
Really.
Creed. Yeah.
I also heard there's a couple of bases as well where it's instant game over, and if you get spotted.
Oh yeah, but I think that's okay. But
Yeah.
like it does challenge you a bit in those little ops and like those little parts. But I feel like in Assassin's Creed, I can at least say like for the most part, I think the stealth is done well enough, serviceable enough to where I'm like, even if they had like game overs, if you were instantly spotted, I can live with that. I feel like it's a fair, balanced stealth system.
Mm.
Splinter Cell, I feel like is a really fair and balanced stealth system for back in the day. What's another good example of that of a game that has good stealth? Ghost of Tsushima, like right now,
Hmm.
I think has premium stealth.
Mm.
Um, this ain't that. This ain't that at all. This is way worse to me. But I feel like
Do you
I
feel it's unfair at times,
oh
or
yeah, for sure. I feel like there are moments to where like I'm hiding in a spot and I feel like the CPU saw me through an obstacle. Like
oof,
saw me through that.
yeah,
It happens occasionally, like like I don't feel like it happens enough to where I'm like, this is unplayable, but like it happens enough to where I'm like, I was midway through this mission, like now I gotta start all over. That sucks, you know.
mm,
But I
interesting, yeah.
I
I've
do
always
think
made
that.
me wonder with this style of game. Imagine if a Naughty Dog done this style of game.
Oh man, I cannot tell you how many times I thought that through. Each
Mm,
hour that I played this game, I'm like, man, what would this be like if the Dishonored people did this game? Oh, what
mm,
would this be like if Naughty Dog, had done this game? Oh, Sucker Punch would have killed this part of this
yeah.
game. Like
Mm,
I'm all, and I think that's the Ubisoft part of it. Like I think Ubisoft's a talented team, but I think like the unrealistic parts of like we got to crank games out every like 3 years
yeah.
is like that this game feels like wasted potential in a lot of parts. In some parts, it feels like, hey, this is a good game to scratch an itch,
Mm,
but at no point have I ever felt like this is reaching the highs of what an open world stealth action RPG could reach. Like
mm,
its bounty system, for instance, there's a system to where like you have several different gangster factions, like in this game. And like you can do a mission for one and it'll probably piss off another one, but like it'll open up new avenues for you if you keep doing missions for certain gangsters. And like certain like gang organizations like the Huts and all that kind of stuff, they betray you in mini quests and such like that. It comes to the nature of the roguish part of like you're an outlaw, that
yeah.
you get that part feels would be cool if it didn't feel underbaked half the time. So I'm
Mm,
like, it just feels like wasted potential. But I think this game is good if you wait for a sale. There's no parts in me, like even if you're a massive Star Wars fan, that makes me want to endorse this game for $70. Like if you can
mm,
find this game for $30, if you can play it, get Ubisoft Plus and link your Xbox to that account and then pay it for that 17.99, and also while you're at it start playing Prince of Persia the Lost Crown because that's also on Ubisoft Plus right now. I'm
yeah.
like I'm like if you can combine those two, really good deal proposition,
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I mean, how I was told this game isn't too long either. 25, 30 hours, is that correct?
I think like I'm hearing I have like a reviewer like a chat that has a whole bunch of different reviewers from the industry on there. A lot of them said like they put like 12 hours in, 12 to 15, and they were able to beat the main story. A lot of them said,
Really?
yeah, like
Wow.
a lot of them said that you can beat it, like with side quests and all that. It did take them closer to that 20-hour mark, you
Mm,
know. But
okay.
I think at 17.99, that's a good bang for your buck. At
Exactly, yeah.
70.99, I'm like, this ain't it. But
I
I
think
was
you've basically described Outlaws what
pictured it as.
I thought it was going to be, and hence I didn't buy day one. I cancelled that and thought I know George from the UCP has been very
Mhm.
excited for this. More on the side, he wants another Star Wars game. It's definitely a
Yeah,
really good Star Wars game. Bless him. And I'm not sure this will be it for
I
him. To
I
be
think this
fair,
is better than. Put it like this. I don't think this is better than the trilogy we're gonna get with Cal Kestis with
hmm
Star Wars, the Jedi trilogy. I don't think this is
hmm
gonna be better than that. But I
no.
do think like I think this is a better Star Wars game than a lot of other Star Wars games we've had in the past, though, still. I think
Yeah,
this
true.
is, yeah, so I'm like, and it's the first open world one, like genuine open world one we got. I think
Mm,
space and space combat in this game, like the space travel, feels more seamless and easy and fun to navigate than Starfield ever has.
mm.
Like, I think that part is really going to get you in. I like a lot of these characters. The main character's a little dry for me, but like, I like Aloy, so what does that say about me? I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't think that is a deal breaker. And knowing George the way I do, I think like he's gonna maybe like this game, but not love this game. If he pays full
Mm,
price for it as well, he's probably gonna really dislike a lot of parts of this game, though.
yeah. Yeah, it's a shame, but I think we sort of all expected it really with Outlaws, didn't we? So,
Yeah, it's absolutely a shame. I want to pivot a little bit. We've talked about what we've been playing, and I want to pivot to the next part and the major part of this episode, I would say, and that is a segment that we've only done once before in the show. We're trying to make it a staple. It is cooking or hot takes. So, while the intro video of this pulls up, I'll kind of describe the rules for you, RGT. So the rules goes as follows. There's stories out there in the news, out there in the ether, that are popping off right now. And I've scoured the internet very similar to how Ray, the Ray we both know and love, scours the internet. And, I found some news, and out of these news stories, I've also found takes on what people thought about this news, whether it be from the Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, comments, all sorts of things. So I'm gonna read out some of that to you. You're gonna tell me if this is a good take, bad take, if it's a hot take, et cetera, et cetera. So are you ready?
Yes.
All right, so our first take goes as follows. You know, it's a little sluggish pulling up. Bear with me, everybody. But so to give a little example here, our first take is in the realm of Concord. Do you know a lot about Concord?
Yeah, I've read a lot on it. I'm not really into me live service sort of first person shooters and competition shooters, but yeah, I've been reading a lot about Concord. Not for all the good reasons either, unfortunately. But
Did it intrigue you at all? Like, I know that's not really your jam, but
not at
were you
all.
not
It
at
just
all?
seemed it just seemed another Overwatch clone to me, to be honest.
Did you like Overwatch at all?
Nope, that's not my style of game at all. I'm not saying they're bad games, don't get me wrong,
No.
but it's not a game that I would ever purchase or play. No, it's not. Those sort of online sort of competitional shooters are not really my jam. But and I just wondered with the power of a few of these others of these games, I just wondered if there is actually a place for Concord in that world, and unfortunately, I don't think there will be.
Yeah, did you have any impressions of Concord, good or bad or anything like that? Like when you saw the trailer for it?
Same again. I always try and watch certain reviewers online,
Mhm.
who are pretty up to speed with new releases, and I watched a couple of them who have played this game, and they all said, "Yeah, it plays quite well. Some of the characters are quite good. It's quite a good game, but is there anything to pull over Overwatch players or other shooters or Fortnite players or anything? Probably not. It's just it's a good game, but in a space where it's probably not needed. So yeah,
Yeah, ain't that the
it's
truth?
yeah. So I haven't played it basically, like I say, because it's not really something that I would play. But I mean, it doesn't appeal to me, and I don't know if it would appeal to the fans of that genre. But have you tried it, Seb?
No, I'm not going to either.
No.
I'm not. No, I'm not. I mostly play single player games, and a multiplayer really has to
Yeah.
grab me for that to actually take hold. But anyways, the video is ready. Here we go. Can you see it?
Yep.
All right, so this is Cooking or Bad Take. Like I said, we scoured the internet to find the hottest news stories, and we're going to read out some takes about those news stories. We're going to decide if they are indeed cooking, which means, that was a really good take, or if this is oh my God, no, a bad take. So, without further ado, our first take for this episode is going to be always centered around Concord. We're pulling this up right now. Here we go. So, RGT. Can you read this story right now?
Yep, I think I can. It's a bit small on my screen, but I will give it my best shot. Uh, Even the worst game of 2023 had more Steam players on release day than Concord.
To give you,
Wow.
and this is coming from Tom Warren from The Verge, everyone. So Concord, at all-time peak as of August 23rd, 2024, has 697 players. The all-time peak of the Lord of the Rings Gollum. Gollum, by the way. I actually played
Oh,
this game. I was given a review code. It was one of the worst games I think I've played in a very long time. It was at 758 all-time players, all-time peak. That was as
oh.
May 25th, 2023. That's the highest of highs of its all-time peak concurrent players. So Concord has officially done worse on Steam than Golem.
That's an incredible stat. I knew this, or I had a good inkling this was going to bomb, but not to lose out to Gollum. My God, that is shocking.
All right,
I
so
mean,
That's crazy. Let me read out some of the takes though, if you don't mind. The first take, IGN's Ryan McCaffrey. He wrote, I wonder if Concord being dead on arrival will give Sony any pause about making live service games moving forward, or if they'll be like the suits at WB who put their fingers in their ears and yelled la 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 after Suicide Squad flop. And
Yeah.
the next take, underneath that, Sweaty Flops wrote, this game deserves a chance because at its core, it is a wonderful competitive FPS game with fantastic gunplay and team synergy. The maps are all great and each character is unique and fun to play. It is flawless on PS5. No bugs, no battle pass, weekly vignettes, and it is $40, which is cheap, by the way. So, out of all these
I
takes,
wonder if Sweaty Flops works for Sony,
I was about to ask, is
because
there
that's almost like someone from the media department has written that, because it's very very
it does sound
almost
PR heavy,
review
doesn't it?
like. Yeah, it is a bit PR heavy, that.
So
And
I'm gonna ask you, cooking or bad takes? Which one do you feel like, if any, do you feel like are good takes, and which one do you feel like are bad takes?
I think Ryan McCaffrey's he's hit the nail on the head there. I think he's cooking. I think Sweaty Flops is probably a bad take there, because it's and it may run flawlessly on PS5. It may have no bugs. It may have a battle pass, and it may be $40, but it doesn't take away that it's something that people don't need or want. You can have the best game in the world, but if it's not what people want, people aren't going to play it. And from those statistics, you can see it. So I admire their enthusiasm, but yeah, that's a bad take, I'm afraid.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you completely. Anything you want to add from all this, by the way? What are your thoughts on this story?
Um, I find it strange. It almost seems sometimes that Sony with these live service games are almost dipping a toe in the water, but they don't understand.
Hmm.
And I know they've had Helldivers, and that took them by surprise. We all know that took them by surprise. Um, but I just think they've almost looked at Overwatch. They've looked at these Fortnites and other games like this and thought, we can do that. We can make a good game like that. Well, you can make a good game like that, but you've already got players that are in 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 seasons in on these games.
You ain't
You
lying,
need to do
especially Fortnite.
something. Yeah. And you need something very special to drag that player base over, or even a small proportion of that player base over. Because if you were going to make a rival to those games, it should have been 5, 6, 7 years ago, not now. You're putting a lot of money in a game that probably is decent that no one's going to play. So,
Sometimes you
yeah,
miss the window, you know?
yeah, and they missed that window by a long way, I'm afraid. So, but yeah, like Ryan McCaffrey says, will this put them off live service games? I don't know, but
You know,
hopefully.
hopefully so.
Yeah.
Hopefully so. Our next story is probably near and dear, close to your heart here. I'm a hit play right now, and cooking or bad take. So this one is all about Indiana Jones and the Great Sakal coming
Mhm.
December 9th. If you didn't know, everybody, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is coming to Xbox Series S and S, Game Pass, PC, December 9th. Find out how you could play and find out how you can play up to 3 days early and get details on pre-order bonuses in all versions of the game. You know, like that's crazy, by the way. In December 9th, it feels so late in the year.
Mhm.
Oh, it does, man. That's even after like Game Awards qualifications. So
Mhm.
this game would have to be like so good that everyone would have to keep this in mind for all of next year, and it just to get nominated for Game of the Year awards for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I digress. Our first take by Grievous Malt. Microsoft is making major decisions like dropping exclusivity and limiting day one Game Pass games to Ultimate have me left with zero faith in the brand. If they're willing to make such a drastic change on a whim, it makes me worry they could just as easily snap their fingers at any given moment and abandon their console business altogether. They've proven they can't be trusted with anyone. Can you read any of this, by the way, or is it too blurry?
Yes, I can. Yeah, I can read. If you want me to read the next one, I
Yeah,
can.
go ahead, please, if you don't mind.
King Boo 13 looks more like an Indiana Jones VR game.
And then there's the one right below it is someone replying to King Boo, if you don't mind.
Um, I think it's Park Away has put, this is the same thought that popped into my head. The first person view really makes it feel like a VR experience, but not in a good way. Lol. Oh dear.
And here's I'll read the last take out of this one. Bam! Wrote everything about this game just sounds so good. The trailers are pretty decent, and these previews are really selling me on it. Love the idea of stealth and exploration being the main focus. So,
Mm.
RGT, I do got to ask you, Indiana Jones coming at you December 9th. You're a big Indiana Jones fan. You've been an Indiana Jones fan for years now. You're
Mhm.
excited about this game. Are any of these takes, if any, are they cooking or are any of these takes bad takes?
To be fair, although Bam does sound like another person who's probably employed by Microsoft PR department, I think they're probably right. I'm excited for this game. Obviously, the big news is coming to PS5, um, which I find I'm not quite sure where Microsoft and Xbox are heading at the moment. It seems if you're going to put your exclusives in a short time frame over to your nearest competitor, um, you're
What's
not
the
in any
point?
encourage you're not encouraging Sony players to get Games Pass subscription. I
No.
I I find that. But anyway, I'm digressing a bit there. I find that a strange decision, because I will probably wait buy a physical of this and play it on my PS5 rather than
Whoa.
firing up my Xbox. Yes, I will do. So I find that a strange one. I can understand people thinking that it looks VR. I mean, obviously you've got the Wolfenstein guys who are doing this game. So as a first-person game, it will be good, I would imagine, because they know what they're doing. The
Mhm.
problem is if they'd have gone third person straight away, they'd have compared it to Uncharted, and that's a big comparison to try and to
It
go
really
with.
is.
So I think, am I a fan of these sort of adventure games being first person? No, but I think it's probably the right decision to do. So I'll be intrigued to see how that works. And I mean, that might add, for when you're doing puzzles and bits, that might add a nice style to it, having that puzzle in front of your face and doing it. So yeah, we'll see. I think Bam is I think he's cooking with that. He's about bang on the money with that, I think.
Okay, okay. Let me ask you this though. I'm like, you're a massive fan of Uncharted, like one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest Uncharted fans that I know. You also are a fan of Indiana Jones. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know your legacy with Tomb Raider, but I imagine you like those games too, right?
Yes, yeah, especially the later ones. I really enjoyed the later ones. Yeah, amazing.
So the new trilogy of Tomb Raiders, we don't necessarily compare those with Uncharted, do we?
No, not very often. No, I suppose. Um, I mean, I've spoke to people, and some people prefer the
One or the
later
other?
Lara Croft ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
and whereas I prefer the Uncharted, and I have played those. They're similar in some ways because you're an adventurer and you're after treasure. But other than that, I
Mhm.
see them as two separate games, and I think the Tomb Raider games are very good in their own right. Uncharted's always the daddy for me in that department. So it'll be interesting to see how this weighs up against it, or will it just be its own thing? Will it be a first-person Indiana Jones game that isn't, going to be compared to Uncharted? So it's going to be interesting. But from what I've seen, yeah, I'm looking forward to playing this game.
Yeah, I was, wondering, like I went back and forth on whether or not it matters first person or not. Like recently, one of my favorite games of this generation was Cyberpunk, especially after the Phantom Liberty expansion. I really, really adore that game now. But like
Hmm.
I love that game, and even though first person isn't necessarily my favorite go-to when it comes to video games, but then so I think about that game and I'm like, you weren't sure about first person when it came to that, but then you loved it. I like Halo. I also really
Hmm.
enjoyed Wolfenstein. I like Skyrim. Don't love Skyrim, but I like Skyrim. I love
Hmm.
Oblivion, all
Yeah.
first person, games,
Yeah.
all games you could play in first person. So my for some reason I do have a little bit of a hang up though with Indiana Jones being first person. I don't know if it's like King Boo said, it looks more like a Indiana Jones VR game, and some of the stiffness, I guess, because they're trying to go for emphatic like thuds when you hit somebody, or the whip especially kind of looks VR-ish to me. It looks
Mm.
like it looks like almost what I would expect like Batman to be throwing out a batarang with a new Arkham game that's coming out
Yeah, I
soon.
know what you mean.
It has
I
that
think
kind of
my
animation
two
to it.
things for me, I think, is because one, Indiana Jones, right? It's a
Hmm.
big character, and other than cutscenes, you're not going to see him because you're in first person mode, where you'd like to see him running around with his hat on and bits and pieces. So that's one. And two, there was a lot of people who really didn't like the Horizon VR game with the
That is true.
climbing and the bits and pieces. And I think a lot of people are sort of pulling that into the fray, thinking, is it going to be similar to that, but just in a first person mode rather than a VR world? And I know they struggled with the climbing and bits on that. So whether they're comparing it, I mean, yes, we predominantly know the first person games as either walking simulators or shooters, So this is going to be a bit of everything, a bit of exploring. Will it work? Well, we'll see. But I think it's an interesting way to go, and there's probably no other better developers to do it than who's doing it. I think.
Yeah, yeah, let's hope for the best. I'm gonna
Mm,
be playing it, but I'm tentatively excited. I guess is
yeah.
how I would describe it. So, our last one, cooking or bad take. This one is all about someone that I've only experienced one time in my life, like as far as like a game player, and that's Metal
Yeah.
Gear Solid. I've only played Metal Gear Solid 5. So I'm
Okay.
I'm out of the series, kind of looking in because the only game I played is a half finished game at that. So, you know,
Hmm.
I want to talk to you though. Shinobi 602, famous on Twitter for breaking news stories and,
Hmm.
also giving updates. He wrote this Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater hands-on previews. I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just going to give you the general like
Yeah.
Spark Notes version of it. Development is a mix of new talent and original Metal Gear Solid 3 veterans. It stays true to the original game. It will have a fidelity mode of 30 frames per second and a performance mode of 60 FPS. Quality of life updates are useful and not overbearing. The new controls very much create a satisfying illusion of how I remember Metal Gear Solid 3 controlled, even though it wasn't. This also has a mixture of like you can play as the classic Metal Gear Solid 3 controls, or you can now switch in between the Metal Gear Solid 5 controls, where it's the more
Okay. Nice
modernized over
touch.
the shoulder. So just to give you a breakdown of what's everyone's talking about, everyone also raved about the praising the visuals. It runs well in Unreal Engine 5,
Hmm.
and like you can actually see the pores on Snake's skin and more ambient wildlife. So that's to give
Wow.
you a general, like, I guess you could say roundup preview of like
Mm.
the highlights of what everyone's talking about with the Metal Gear Solid solid hands-on previews. Now I
Mm.
want to skip ahead a little bit and talk about what this means as far as like how people are responding to it. So if you can read this,
Yep.
especially the start with James, if you don't mind.
Yep. So James on Twitter has said, I don't like the idea of MGS games brackets even remakes without Kojima involved, but this does sound as good as it could possibly be without him, since it feels like a graphic and quality of life update.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he could be right there. I quite like the sound of this, to be honest.
Are you a big fan of the series?
Funny enough, no, I played one and two
Hmm.
back in the day, and then sort of fell off. So I've never played three. So I've sort of fell off the sort of Metal Gear train, really. Um, but I'd like, regardless of game, I like it when they do a remake. They do a proper remake. They don't just put it in high res and then you just literally have the original game, which there's quite a few developers who are guilty of that. I like it when, but it's also that lovely touch where they give you, I mean, forgive me, I can't remember the name of the developer, but like the guys who done the Wonder Boy and that remakes, where you could either use the original music and graphics
Oh
or the new
yeah.
version and or you could use the original graphics, but the new music, or vice versa. I like it when they go to that depth where they're honouring the game so that people coming into this new, who are younger, who've never played it, can play this in a modern setting. But
The
if you're a big fan of that series, you can also play with the original controls and bits and pieces and still get their memories from it. So they sort of think of everyone, and I think it's something that not all developers have to do, but it's nice when they do it. It's really good.
I think a good example of this is not the example you were talking about, but another good example would be the Master Chief Collection. How like you were able to swap back and forth between the
Yes,
graphical styles.
yes, definitely. That's a very good example. Yeah, which is what I played Halo on the Master Chief Collection, and that is especially for price of that, or if you've got Game Pass, that's a brilliant collection. That is, which same again is honoured the original material, but brought it up to spec if you want it to.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. William Ramos wrote, "This all sounds good, but maintaining the zoned off areas is a bit of a bummer. Would have been cool if each area had blended into one another, similar to the RE2 remake. Other than that, though, these all sound great. MS3 is in my top 10 games of all time, and I like what I see so far. I forgot to mention that earlier. They did say that there's still going to be like almost like different zones and areas that you can go to instead of it being a complete whole like holistic open world. So for instance, you can click in between like the safari region or like the rainforest region, and you're going into region versus region
Okay.
as opposed to you just like, oh, this is an open world map. I go wherever you please.
Yeah, okay. I can see. Yeah, it depends how smooth that is and how you transition really to how much of a difference that would make from one big open world map. But time will tell in the plan, I suppose, and see how it comes out. But um,
You want to take these next two?
yes, we've got Shady Cyan, who has put fans never wanted a remake though, and
Huh.
that's follow. Yeah, apparently so. And Free on the Frozen has put, I'm sorry, plays like Metal Gear Solid 5. That's got me super intrigued. So yeah, I think same with any remake, you're going to get the hardcore originals who think that source material should stay as it is. But like the last one said, if you're getting the modern controls, you suddenly open that up to a whole new market of new players who've never experienced the game. So that's not. I like the idea. I think it's nice to have that best of both worlds, and makes it an easier and more playable game for everyone.
Oh, that sounds good. Any of these takes feel like they're cooking takes or bad takes for you, by the way?
Um, Let me think. I would probably say I
It's
think James has probably hit the nail on the head. I think he's cooking now. I think it is hard to think of it without Kojima involved, but the source material is there. So I mean, you don't need to rewrite a script or direct this game because the material's there. They literally have to, make this a modern version of it, which from what's been said about it from Shinobi is sounding very good. So I think, yeah, I think it's awkward not to have Kojima there, but very intriguing otherwise. So yeah, I
I
think
agree
it's
with you. Yeah.
yeah, and I think a bad take is probably old Shady
Oh,
saying there. I
shady.
think yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of a series, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Uncharted, they remastered them about 3 times, and I still bought them all. I still played them, and I'm a massive fan. So if you want to remake them and make them look gorgeous and better for the system you're on, yeah, if you're a true fan, you'll play it. I think so.
Yeah, Nintendo does this like clockwork, basically, like they're gonna sell you the 3D Mario collection over and over again as well.
And
So
the reason they do it is because they sell.
yeah, they
So
really do.
yeah.
They really do. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm intrigued by this because I did like Metal Gear Solid 5 and the way it played, and the I get it felt like a premier stealth game, and it also had some action elements, some base building elements, and from everything I heard about Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, I want that type of game again. I would love to be in that world. I do think like I don't necessarily connect with the story from Metal Gear Solid. Like Metal Gear Solid 5 didn't necessarily blow me away with its story, but then its story is so eccentric and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
abstract in a lot of ways that it's kind of hard to get into, you
yeah. I've
know?
got a good friend who's a massive MGS fan. number four's his favorite, and
Mhm.
yeah, he's all over this. He can't wait, and he's a massive fan of Metal Gear Solid, so he can't wait for this. So that probably says it all, really, I think.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so our last segment of the show, and we'll get up out of here, is that I'm gonna ask you two separate questions. One is going to be, what are you hoping to play in the near future?
um I've actually, people are going to laugh at this because they're going to think, why are you playing this now? But that's just what I am. But I've just recently purchased, it was really cheap for a good reason, but I purchased Witcher 3 Complete Edition for PS5. So that's installed to play. Haven't played The Witcher, so
I
I'm
haven't
looking
either.
forward to that.
That was my first one, like Witcher 3.
Yeah, and I've been intrigued because since I finished Forbidden West, I've been trying to scratch that open world itch, and I haven't been able to find something I want to play. So I think The Witch will be it. Definitely gonna finish Trials of Mana. Now I've got the physical copy of that, so carrying with that. Really enjoying that. And I don't know whether to then go to Secrets of Mana, the remake of that, or jump straight into Vision. So that'll be another one that I want to play. There'll be more Vampire Survivors. I think there always will be now. I'll be jumping in and out of that whenever I get a chance, and hopefully to finish Bioshock Infinite, and then I'm going to look up to my next series that I really want to play. A big, well-known series from the past that I should really get into. So that's probably what I'll be looking at. How about you, Seb?
And can I give you a video game recommendation?
You certainly can.
Okay, okay. So based on what I know about you, and I'm going to tell you why I'm giving you this recommendation, and
Okay.
I'm going to pull up some gameplay footage as I'm talking. But so you're looking for a big open world game to play, right?
Yep.
Okay. Does it matter if it's indie or not?
No,
You
not at
know?
all.
Okay,
No, I'm not
gotcha.
fast if it's India or not.
All right, so I don't know if this is like the mood you're in or not. So I think that's the only thing that's kind of like stopping me from being like, this is a home run hit. Like RGT is gonna love this. This is like this is gonna be, as they say in the UCP, his mummy. Uh but like I'm going to recommend one game for you. It's called Dungeons of Hindenburg. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah, I've heard you talking about it on the show, and
Yeah.
also when we had Mags on, the streamer Mags, who does the
Mhm.
Timeless Games convention, he was talking about this. Oh, and I didn't realize it looked like this.
Okay, so yeah, I have the gameplay up in the background. So it has a really cool art style, but if
That art style, that is awesome. That reminds me of Roller Drome.
yeah, so it has a roller drum art style, but as you can see, she's pulling bombs down, like
Mm.
the bombs down. It's very Zelda-like as far as like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the
Ooh.
Kingdom. As far as like this is the way you solve like each puzzle, and this is the action style. So I think the action is better than Zelda, because I always thought Zelda's action was a little more like rudimentary. Like this
Yes,
is a
yes,
little more,
definitely.
yeah. I thought that was the weakest point of like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, is the action elements of those. Like I think like its puzzle elements were always like superb, but like I felt like the pound for pound action is what kind of held me back from really loving that game, in addition to the story. But like I digress. Duchess of Hinterberg, like I think like the action is crisp. It is very calculated. Like I can just keep
Mm.
whacking all these like spirits over and over again, or you can pull down bombs in different styles. You can upgrade your person to be have better stamina or better like skills with their weapon of choice, which is a saber. Um and like as you can see right here, like there's a map, there's like dungeons. Each one of those like stamps in her book is a different dungeon she can
Oh,
explore.
okay.
So the whole premise is you're a person who's going on vacation in a foreign country, and this foreign country is like it's become a renowned tourist spot because like magic and other elements have just suddenly started to appear and work here. And
Mm.
throughout all this like throughout Hitterberg, like the whole city has become a tourist town because of all that. And so these each different like portals that you find in this open world right now are different dungeons that you can explore at your own leisure and at your own pace. But don't forget you're on vacation here. So like you also could do vacation like activities.
That seems
So
really in depth.
oh yeah, and I here's the thing that I think like George and myself would probably really love about this game is like it has persona elements to it. So like
Mm,
as you're playing, you're also as you're playing and as you're exploring the town and the town's people, you're also trying to upgrade your different activities and different people that you meet, upgrade different abilities that you have in the open world and that you have like exploration wise and as you're fighting other people. So like so for instance, I can go fishing with a guy and that can maybe help my meditation state, and that meditation state can help my MP, my magic ability.
mm.
Or I can go on a hike and but that takes a day away. This is a day and night cycle. So like for instance on the gameplay footage we were watching just now, this is from day 2. It doesn't matter, like it's a vacation, you can go as long as you want. There's not like a pigman timer that goes on and you lose if you don't like accomplish the game in a certain amount of days. But like
Mm.
each day is like you could spend it doing dungeon hunting or you can spend it doing like activities in the town, hanging out with friends. And the more you build up your persona, so to speak, of like the more I build up my relationship with the friends, the more perks each friend will give me when I hang out with them.
Oh,
So
that's brilliant. I like the
yeah,
sound of this.
yeah. So it's all
Looks good
about
as well. Looks combat looks fantastic. Art style looks fantastic. I love it when these, especially these indie guys, do stuff
Mhm.
different. Do you know what I mean? Almost, you've like you say, you got that persona side to it, but you also got the vacation side to it. So, but by being on vacation is benefiting you in the game itself for your combat and bits. Yeah, I like the sound of this. I think this could be getting downloaded this week. What are you playing on, Seb? You on Steam Deck?
So no. The reason why I wanted to bring this up to you specifically is like I played this on Xbox and
Okay, yeah.
it's on Xbox Game Pass.
Oh wow, fantastic.
Yeah, so this is a recent installment of Game Pass, and I think this is a fantastic game. I don't think the story is just gonna blow you away or anything like that, but like as a person who really likes Zelda and like the puzzle solving elements of Zelda, especially, I feel like that is what's gonna draw you into this game and make you really adore it. Because like
Yeah, I'm
they
definitely
do have
intrigued by this.
yeah, they have like bomb puzzles that you can kind of like explore, and each dungeon that you explore also like has its own mini puzzles, Zelda like old school retro Zelda, like
Hmm.
I'd say like Twilight Princess style like puzzles that you can
Okay.
actually store, like actually solve, and that'll get you to like different areas, and those areas will kind of give you either different gear or that's how you beat the dungeon in its entirety. Also, each dungeon usually has its own little mini boss as well. So I'm
Hmm.
like, I think this is like right up your alley.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like the look of this. I think this could be getting played this week.
Yeah, so everyone go check out Dungeons of Hinterberg if you actually like if you're looking for a open world indie game to play that kind of has like some Zelda meets Persona elements to explore there. But anyways, my second question before we get up out of here was going to
Yep.
be where can the good people find you? You know, if they want more RGT like most people in this world do, where
Oh, I'm
can they
not sure
find
about that.
you?
I'm on Instagram, so you can look up Retro Gamer Thomas, and I'll show bits of our podcast and what I've been doing and games I'm picking up and collecting and improvements to the game shed. If that's your sort of thing, and you like collecting and you like retro games and systems and bits and pieces, come check me out. Come say hi. Also, check out Unofficial Controller Podcast. I'm a presenter on there along with the good Seb himself there. Yeah, come and listen to us, weekly podcasts. You could download us on all formats. And we'll hopefully soon be doing in video too. So you'll be checking us out on YouTube. So yeah, that's the main two places where I am anyway.
Okay. So, you know, we talked about what we've been playing. We talked about some hot and some cooking and bad takes. We also talked about where you can find us and some games we're looking forward to playing. Without further ado, it's time to bid everyone adieu. Thomas, man, thank you so much for doing this, by the way.
No, this has been brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun. Doing a different show in a different format was, yeah, always great fun. So yeah, just thanks for having me. Cheers.
No, thank y'all. But anyways, if you enjoyed listening to everything that you heard so far, don't forget to like, subscribe. Also, like you can hit us up in the comments below, or you can send us a message through any of the links in the description of this episode. We're always available to talk, and we always like giving out video game recommendations and just talking to you all about video games. So if that tickles your fancy, go check out the links below. In the meanwhile, this has been the Single Player Experience Podcast, the hottest podcast for single player gamers to find about good single player games to play. As always, I'm your host, Sebastian, and joining me, or the person who's joined me today, has been the illustrious, the magnificent, the sensational one himself, the retro expert, RGT. RGT, man, again, thank you so much. I've been Sebastian, that's been RGT. Until next time, we bid you adieu. Kiss, kiss, bang, bang. Good night. See you later.
See you later, everyone. See you guys.
Bye. What's up? It's your boy Sebastian. I want to send you a special thank you whether you watch this podcast episode via YouTube or whether you listen to it throughout all the podcast platforms. By the way, it's available on all your favorite podcast platforms if you didn't already know. Anyways, if you like what you heard, go ahead and hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so that you stay tuned and locked in to all things within the Single Player Experience podcast. Anyways, until next time, stay safe, stay gaming, and enjoy that single player experience. Bye, everybody.